G'day everyone. I do not know what is going on with OBS at the moment, but it's playing up, so our intro just didn't work, but that's all good. Welcome to the show. Sorry we're late, guys. I've had some issues at work, and obviously everyone was just sort of getting all their stuff together and getting here on, so I apologize, but we're always late, so you expect it. We're a little bit later than normal. Jump straight into intros. Skill up, man. Welcome to the show. It's awesome to have you on, man. Sort of like a dream of mine to get on Skill Up.
Well, I apologize because we've been trying to make this happen for ages, but like my life is just chaos. So, I keep like, I can do it like in 3 months' time, which is a ridiculous thing to say, but like, unfortunately, that is just how stupid my life is. So, no, I'm really glad to be here, and I'm sorry it took so long.
No, it's awesome to have you here, and I know you're only here because you're afraid of being bear hugged again, so I appreciate it.
It's pretty rare that someone could pick me up. I mean, I'm 120 kilos, and you literally just picked me straight up off the ground. So I was like, well, that just happened, and it was, but it felt good though. I won't lie, it felt good.
Yeah, I was a little bit excited, a little bit drunk. Deadly Headley, man, welcome to the show. If you guys don't know Deadly, he is an up-and-coming YouTuber and makes fantastic content. Like, it is really amazing. And so I had to have him on the show. He's got some great knowledge. So welcome to the show, man. How you doing? What are you up to? What have you been playing?
What is going on, man? Thank you for the intro. That's very kind of you. Yeah, I am a brand new content creator. Having a lot of fun doing it. Still sort of figuring things out, but very proud of the production quality, if I do say so myself.
Mm-hmm.
I have been playing a lot of Halo. And I'm having a fantastic time doing it.
Yeah, it's sort of come back, hasn't it? We're going to get to that later in the show. And you're sort of the perfect person to have on. You even just dropped that video the other day about Halo, which was, again, really, really good. Great content. The production value is up there. It's crazy. So, yeah, I really respect it. You make great content, so it's good to have you on. Infinite.
Thank you, man.
Welcome back. Another week, another Infinite. How was your show? How's things going? What have you been up to? I haven't seen you much.
Oh yeah, well, I'm here and there, as you know. No show this week, of course. It was Thanksgiving, literally on the day of. So, but
Oh, really?
I mean, good time with the family. Oh yeah, good time with the family. Though I made the turkey, I've been sharing it around to people to show them the glory of my cooking skills. But yeah, man, I'm excited for tonight. I won't be here for long myself, unfortunately, about an hour. But I have to move on to do the Halo 2 table read tonight. So I'm excited for that. And I want you guys, if you can, to come by that after this show. If you're still watching this show, to come by and support them. They're doing a charity run for that. I think I picked up COVID, by the way.
Oh,
yeah.
It's always good to hear.
I can't, my usual singing voice is kind of ashy right now. I call it ashiness. But
it can't get any worse than it already was, so we're good.
It's still better than Riskit. You're fine.
That's true. That is
nice.
true. Thank you.
Nice.
That is. But I'm grateful for Deadly Headley and Skill Up being with us tonight. And Deadly, we got to get you on some Halo with us now that I hear the classiness that you bring. Yeah, I watched your video.
Absolutely.
I watched your video, and I'm like, yeah, we got to bring him into the fold and murder him.
There were some good clips, right? I was very proud of those clips.
Yeah, you did good. You did good. We'll bring you into the fold and murder you mercilessly in Halo like we do with everybody else. But
so, what is this this Giving of Thanks Day? I've been watching this on Twitter, and I'm not sure. I just thought it was everyone's National Food Disasters Day, is what I've been seeing for the most part. So,
I guess it kind of go hand in hand. Holly, you want to explain that to them? what that
Riskit
is?
knows.
Jedi Knight, another fantastic week, man. Welcome back. How you been? I haven't seen much of anyone this week. I've been so busy. So yeah, how you been? What have you been up to?
Hey, good, mate. Yeah, look, we got to play a little bit of COD the other day. That's pretty much all I've been doing, playing COD. I am happy to say that Holly actually got me into getting camos for my guns, and I think I've got 3 or 4 gilded guns now, so let's go, baby. I finally finished Lords of the Fallen, and I love that game. It's a very good game. It's a Dark Souls game not made by From Software, but I'm happy to be finished it. I just got so lost in that game, and I had to use a walkthrough to get through it. Haven't got through that much Halo, but My goodness, we've got the one and only Skill Up. Skill Up, I actually didn't think you were going to join after Riskit told me the story of bear hugging you at FanFest in LA. So thank you so much for being here, brother. And
No.
Deadly, thank you so much for joining us as well. Let's go.
Thank you for having me, man. I really do appreciate it.
Yeah, me too.
Absolutely. Blue, how, man, I have not seen anything of you this entire week, so I have no idea what you've been up to. I can assume you've been playing a lot of COD. What else have you been up to? What's going on for you?
Hello. First, hi Deadly. Hey Skillup. Skillup, I was actually in LA and hanging out with Riskit.
All right, were you?
The next day, yeah, I was.
Yeah.
And the next day when I saw him and he said, I bear hug Skillup. I was like, huh? And where's the restraining order? Like, it's like,
I don't think anyone took a photo of it. I wish we had a photo of it. We should do that next time. Let's recreate it next time we're in LA. Riskit, let's do that, man.
Definitely. If I don't damage my back by lifting you up. It like, yeah, it was a good time.
yeah, LA, that time is so much fun. We'll definitely have to meet next time and I'll, you know,
For sure.
talk. But I have been playing oodles and boodles and oodles of COD. Playing a lot of multiplayer with Pete and Boba and playing some zombies with Colt and our friend Dante and just having, I don't know, just a ton amount of fun in that and still trying to work my way through Alan Wake 2, dipping back into Fallout 76 a little bit the other day with a couple other people and just kind of bouncing around. I really want to finish up Alan Wake 2 so I can go do my Cyberpunk playthrough again and get to Phantom Liberty because it's been packed lately and that's a wonderful, wonderful thing to have in gaming. So
yeah, I'm getting more mixed feelings from the community about Alan Wake 2 actually. So like for me it was an absolute masterpiece. But I can see how people would struggle with there is slow points. There is, sort of sections that do slow the game down. I don't think it's pacing. I wouldn't call it a pacing issue, but I could really see how some people just wouldn't vibe with that game. And so, I mean,
You know what I think it is, Risk? I think you got to be in the mood to play that game. I jumped into it last night and I just wasn't feeling it. It's like when you want to watch a comedy movie, but you have to watch a thriller and you just don't vibe with it in that way. Other than that, the level of detail, the storytelling, the sound design, everything about the game's beautiful.
Oh, it's stunning. Just the use of like the interwoven meta, like it's just honestly masterpiece level. I firmly stand by Sam Lake being I think he's Swedish, the Swedish
Finnish.
Finnish? The
Yeah.
Finnish. Now who's the guy that did Death Stranding? Kojima. He's the Finnish Kojima.
Yeah.
Look, we'll jump into topics. First one off the rung is Game of the Year. And I sort of wanted to attack this. We've seen a lot of this through the last week, the Xbox tax, the negativity that's sort of around it. And then obviously if you cast your mind back to last year, Xbox didn't turn up at all to the Game Awards. Now, I did not think it was a big deal. And I found this interesting this week is I didn't think it was a big deal last time. I'm like, well, they didn't show up. They're having shows throughout the year. That's not a big deal. The community did not agree with that. Fair enough. But this time around, I've seen a lot of the community, they're like scorned, I don't know, like a scorned X, where they're like, Xbox just shouldn't show up at all. And I sort of feel like that's just not going to happen. I think that Xbox is going to show up in a big way, and I'm really interested to see what they bring. I have heard from multiple different people. I think Jez has said it, Alana Pierce has said it, and a lot of, I think Jeff Grubb said it, is that this year is actually going to be quite big. Or they think it's going to be quite big. And so I'm pretty excited. Now, I have a sort of a pick that I think that Xbox is going to show, just purely based on a lot of things, quite a few things. And I've been throwing this around back and forth between people to sort of get their feeling on it. But I will jump to that after everyone else. I'm going to jump to the guests. I'm going to say skill up. So what do you think this game of the year is going to be like? Do you think it's going to be one of those big reveals? We had a massive 2022 game of the year that revealed 2020, a lot of the games coming in 2023. 2023 was huge. What do you think 2024 is looking like, and the 2023 game of the year? Do you think it's going to be just as big, or do you think we need to temper our expectations?
Are you talking about like the trailer reveals at the award
reveals,
show?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, right. I mean, I don't know. Like, it's a good question because I think in the past, Jeff Keighley has actually been very careful to temper expectations for his events when there's nothing big going on, right? Like, because I've actually spoken to him, like I've interviewed him a couple of times, and he definitely feels the weight of expectations, and he feels like the internet gets super hyped up and they hype themselves up, and then when the events don't deliver massive reveals, they kind of like shit all over Jeff Keighley, and they're like, Jeff Keighley sucks and blah blah blah, what a shitty show, the Game Awards is garbage, whatever. So I think he over the years has learned that if he hasn't got something big to show, he kind of needs to like telegraph that early with a little tweet being like, oh, just so you know, we're proud of what we've got coming, and we're focused on some, already announced games or whatever. Like he always finds some words to keep expectations in check, but he hasn't done that yet, from what I can tell. Like, I haven't seen him temper those expectations to this point. So maybe there's like something big going. There's obviously the rumors, the possibility, I should say, that he might have got the GTA 6 reveal, because Rockstar have said that trailer will go live in early December. Game Awards is early December, and you've got a captive audience of like 100 million people. Rockstar don't need the Game Awards, obviously, but why not? It could be a moment that they could sort of hook into. So I don't know. I think at this point I'm optimistic that we'll see some cool stuff. That's my sort of gut feel on that.
Do you think we'll see PlayStation sort of bring anything, or Xbox, the two console platforms, bring anything in particular? Xbox has been very vocal, but PlayStation has been very, very quiet. So I feel like if they're going to bring something, this might be the time.
Yeah. I don't think that PlayStation will, to be honest with you. Like, it just feels as though their projects that they're working on aren't for a while yet. I could be wrong about that, obviously, but Xbox have been pretty vocal about the fact that they feel like they're at the point where, in their release cadence, they're looking at one big release every quarter, I think is what Matt Booty recently said. And so if that's the case, then you've got to show off some stuff at the Game Awards, because you're going to have something big coming out, next quarter, and we don't know what that is yet, right? So I definitely expect Xbox will have something, and my suspicion is that Sony probably won't, because it feels like they're still cooking on a lot of their stuff at the moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm with you on that. Deadly, what are your thoughts about what Jeff's bringing in relation to reveals? Do you think it's going to be one of those bigger game of the years, one of the ones that we're going to remember? Do you think Xbox will show up? Do you think PlayStation will show up? What are you thinking for this year's reveals?
I think I think Xbox has to show up this year, because people did make us think about it not showing up last year, and I think it was fair to make that. I think potentially there's an argument for them sort of trying to keep things quiet so as not to kind of rock the boat with the ABK deal, because I know there was this sort of spiel about them not having to look too confident and sort of playing like they're in third place, but also like they had that swagger and confidence to lead the pack. I have a bold prediction. I'm gonna put it out there. I think that Xbox might get quite prominent with a Baldur's Gate 3 release date, or some sort of noise made about the fact that Baldur's Gate 3 is going to be at Xbox. I think it's almost certain that we'll see that. I wonder if they may go a step further and go, we've seen how successful this game is, we've seen the noise that it has made on the lead up to the Game Awards and the prestige that it has carried, and turn it into a Game Pass drop. I doubt that that's going to happen, but I wouldn't be surprised.
It could very well be a shadow drop, right? That's that I
potentially.
Like, I don't see it going to Game Pass. I
think a shadow drop is more likely for sure, but I wonder if they really wanted to go big. I don't know. It's difficult. It's hard to say, right? But I think if I was to throw something crazy out there, that's the kind of thing I'd throw out.
Yeah, I mean, that would be. I mean, we saw the list of what they were thinking about paying for Jedi Survivor and some of those big releases. That I would argue Baldur's
That's the
Gate is
thing, man.
at
They're
that,
not afraid to
that level.
flex deep pockets.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
we've seen how deep their pockets can go. It's crazy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Have any of you had a chance to play Baldur's Gate yet?
I haven't.
Unfortunately,
yet.
no.
I haven't.
Yeah, right. Okay,
Nope.
yeah, cool. You guys are like in for the biggest treat of your life, trust me. It's when it does
I have
arrive,
I have a buddy who went on this whole campaign of it being game of the year.
Oh
But
yeah.
like, oh yeah, so he loves it, and he's been playing it. He's been playing it even since 2020 when it was
Yeah.
added.
Yeah, right.
So
early
he's
access,
been in
yeah,
it for a
sure.
while. Yep. But I'm excited for it because I feel like, once it come to Xbox, that's when I'll really jump in and do what I have to do. But at the time, of course, we had Starfield, so it was like,
Of course.
I had that right there. Which Starfield is still my current game of the year, though I do acknowledge its faults. I came at an 85 for it or 8.5, whatever you want to call it. But I am excited to play Baldur's Gate. But I do agree with Deadly on the thought that we'll see. Obviously, they're going to say it at the Game Awards. I mean, they already hinted toward that being the case. I know Hargeet doesn't like Baldur's Gate, as you can see. He
can see him
called it
kicking off in
Baldur's
the
crap. Yeah.
Who
But-
called it Baldur's crap? Who was this?
Baldur's crap. He
Hargeet.
didn't like it.
What?
Hargeet plays a lot of games. Yeah. So, but I am excited to try it out. I feel like if it hits Game Pass, that's going to be a megaton if they announce that at the Game Awards. So
It would be
But-
wild. It would be
Yeah.
wild.
What else?
So funnily enough, I actually recently, I say recently, it was my first game was on Sunday. A lifelong friend of mine invited me to join his Dungeons and Dragons campaign that he wrote. And I thought, I've never tried it. I'll give it a go. Because I'm a gamer, right? I'll play what's in front of me. And I really enjoyed it. And it sort of made me think about Baldur's Gate in a different light, because it's not my kind of thing. Like Starfield was much more my bag, and like Baldur's Gate didn't really do much for me when I saw it. Like I saw the appeal, but I'm interested. I'm interested.
And I think as well, like I think I will say on Baldur's Gate, it's got a power to convert people in a way that very few games do. I think a lot of people, like I would liken it to Elden Ring, where a lot of people would look at Souls-like games and be like, that's not really for me. I've tried some in the past, so but then you get into it and you're like, hang on a second, this is doing some different things here, and it works on a whole new level. And I would say that Baldur's Gate, it's definitely one of those games where if you push through those opening hours, it's more than likely going to get its hooks into you. If you like good video games, if you like good storytelling, if you like, deep reactive worlds and gameplay systems, it's going to cast a spell on you, and
skill up.
Yeah.
Level with us, brother. Is it because of the bear sex?
It's
Tell us the
absolutely. I was actually just about to mention that before you rudely interrupted my flow. I was just getting to the bear sex, And believe me though, there's other sex, and the bear sex is actually probably the most tame of all the sex. So believe me, you get deep into this camp. I won't spoil it, but there's some freaky shit later on. Trust me, very freaky shit. So,
Yeah, I've seen one, I think, with an orc or something like that in the
yeah, like
barnyard.
the troll woman or whatever.
Oh yeah.
That's right. Yeah. Oh, it gets pretty nuts.
So did Skillup? We've heard issues with Act 3? Did you have any issues with that?
It's a really interesting question. Because I played it when it already had like one or two patches, and so I definitely had some problems though, for sure, like definitely. But I always contextualize these things as in, that game to that point had delivered me 110 hours of some of the most incredible gameplay and storytelling I've ever experienced in a video game. And so if I get to the back end and I start experiencing some bugs, I'm like, okay, well, that's okay. Like that's disappointing, obviously, don't get me wrong, but like, we keep it in context. Sorry, go on.
Oh no, I was just going to say, so your Act 3.
Yep.
Like the issues around it are, I mean, I know there was a lot of technical, but
Yes.
you don't feel like the story fell off
Well,
or deflated at that point.
And that's
either.
another thing. A lot of people say that it's an unsatisfying ending for in the Act 3, and I really couldn't disagree more with that. Well, it depends though, because the way this game works is that if you choose to not invest in your party members, or you choose to just sort of kill them off early, then yeah, you're going to be at Act 3 with very few stories to wrap up, right? And I can understand how that would be quite unsatisfying, but I ran every character's story through to its absolute conclusion, and every one of those stories concluded very powerfully. And so even though like the epilogue at the end credits roll wasn't particularly interesting, I didn't really care because the actual quest lines had wrapped up those stories for those characters so perfectly for me. So I'm actually in a totally different place versus a lot of that broader commentary about the game falling off at the back end. Again, I did have some technical issues, but they weren't minor. Sorry, they weren't major. And story-wise, I actually feel like they completely nailed Act 3 and closing out those stories. So yeah.
It's interesting though. It's like some of my absolute favorite movies, right? And even some of my favorite games, the journey there is so enjoyable that like the end is
Yeah.
kind of unimportant.
Yeah.
Like,
No, I totally
it's not, or
agree.
it's just not as good, but
Sure.
you're so invested in everything else, or it's so fun, or whatever, right? And so it
Yeah.
sounds like maybe it's something like that. Yeah. I get
Yeah,
that.
I mean, obviously, there's a way to tank an ending. Like, obviously, Game of Thrones is the perfect example. It's like it's so bad that it ruins everything. Like, it's hard to watch Game of Thrones again now because all you can think about is how shitty the ending
Yes.
is. But
Yes.
but at the
Oh,
same
true.
time,
Yeah.
there are experiences where you just have a great ride along the way, and if the ending kind of flubs it, well, that's all right because it was still pretty great, you know. And I think even people who don't like the ending of Baldur's Gate 3 will still say it's an incredible video game. And the people that do love the ending, like myself, are just like, yeah, it's
Yeah.
there's
From
no parallel to Baldur's Gate in the last decade, really, in terms of what it's
from what
achieved, I
I've
think.
seen I've seen that, and it's been the vast majority that's loved this game. But what I've seen is you either really, 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 almost in a strange way, love this game, or
Yeah.
you really, really hate this game.
Really? I haven't seen people hate this game. I really haven't seen that. I don't know.
I've seen
I-
only
I-
just
I-
a couple of people, but the people who hate it, like they
Really?
hate it.
Okay,
Yeah.
interesting. I've
So-
definitely seen that with Alan Wake. I think we talked because you talked about that earlier. It's quite polarizing, and some people are like, "This shit's boring. Combat sucks." Whatever. Fair enough. But I don't know. I feel like with Baldur's Gate, most of what I've seen is either like really loving it or kind of just like, "Hey, that's too long." You know, like I don't have time for that. Like it's just like 130 hours to finish it, right? And so, a lot of people just don't have the space in their lives for a game like that, which absolutely I can totally understand.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
I think some people have an issue with rolling dice too. Sorry.
Well,
Just
I mean,
the improbability of things, right? Like,
but that's
some
so
people
funny.
don't like
That was
that.
Hargate's main problem with the game, I think.
But like most games are dice rolls. Like when you get a crit in like fucking League of Legends, that's a dice roll. Do you know what I mean? Like, so the fact that you actually see that dice roll on the screen, I think, is a very interesting way to manifest what is a pretty core gameplay design element across most games that you play. You know,
Honestly,
I get that,
coming
but I
away
think
from
it's not-
Dungeons
I
and
think it's
Dragons.
polarizing as well, seeing it on screen. So
yes,
whenever you get a crit, it's behind the scenes. You know there's a skill roll involved, but you don't actually see it. This is so front and center, and I think it's polarizing to people.
sure.
When I was playing Dungeons and Dragons, honestly, that thrill of the dice, it surprised me a lot because I'm not into that, man. I never really have been. I tried playing Baldur's Gate 2 back when that was out on a very, very, very old PC, and it did nothing for me. But for some reason, when I look at Baldur's Gate 3, I think, I've matured as a gamer. I'm much more open-minded as a gamer than I was, 20 years ago, whenever that was. There is something exciting about it, and it's remarkable how like half the panel hasn't played Baldur's Gate 3, but all of the discussion instantly sort of hones into Baldur's Gate 3. I think it's gonna suck the oxygen out of the Game Awards, and it's strange considering half of us haven't played it yet. It still does do that with conversation.
I guess
do you think you're able to shed light on that, Skillet?
Well, I think, just specific to this group, because obviously this is like an Xbox-centric podcast.
Yeah, for sure.
And I imagine that had the game already been released, you probably would have played it, and I reckon most of you would have loved it because it really is that kind of thing where when you get your chance to spend some time with it, like it's really special, But I think that broader point about like why is it sucking up so much oxygen? Why are we talking about it so much? I really do not think it is at all an exaggeration to say that it is a once in a generation video game in terms of its accomplishments across its narrative, across its world design, across its core gameplay systems, across its presentation, what it means for like CRPGs, for role-playing games, for just so many things. You know, it's that real lightning in a bottle moment that it just comes along so rarely. And I think its quality is so self-evident to anyone who's really had the chance to spend time with it. So yeah, I'm not surprised at all that it sucks up as much oxygen as it does, because as I said, I finished at 130 hours, and yeah, there's no hyperbole around this. There's no like, oh, people are exaggerating, or there's none of that. It's like everything people they say about it, it's true. It's just true.
I do have to
So,
call out one of the guys in the chat here who
point. Skill up.
he said, he said roll an 18 for Iron Dick to have bear sex. So I don't know if that's part of the game, if you've played it, or but that sounds good. Who doesn't want to roll an 18? Look, I don't know who we haven't gone to. So Blue, I think. Oh no, Jedi, I haven't gone to you, have I? I haven't gone to you yet. So what do you think Xbox is going to show up? Do you think PlayStation's going to show up? Do you think we're going to see GTA 6 come? We already know that Baldur's Gate 3 is going to sweep the awards. That's self-evident just by the conversation that we're having. What do you think they're going to bring? Do you think it's going to be I think it's going to be a tough year to beat. 2023 is like one of the best years we've had in gaming. You have to say it. And obviously his Game of the Year awards in 2022 was a good show when it comes to reveals. Do you think he can top it this year?
I think that Xbox will show up. We all remember that picture of when they cut to Phil Spencer in 2022, and he just did not look happy at all. And I think he took that a little bit personally. And we were talking about this throughout the week, Riskit. And you made a pretty big prediction, I think, a couple of days ago that Gears of War was going to be there. I really hope they do that. And we were going through the Xbox studios and we were naming, what they could show. And I think we fell on maybe showing Everwild again. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think if they show anything, it will be Gears 6. And if they do that, that's going to make me very happy. I don't know how many people are still interested in Gears, but I love that franchise. Always have loved that franchise, and I always will love that franchise. PlayStation, I don't think they will show up, bro. In all honesty, because I don't think they have anything to show. They're a little bit behind. They've just moved on from Jim Ryan. I think they're going to take a little bit of time to get the background things in motion before they go forward. I hope Baldur's Gate 3 takes home all the prizes. I think it deserves all the prizes. And though I haven't played it, all the feedback from the community and from actual gamers, the feedback has been amazing. And so kudos to that studio. And some of the nonsense narrative coming out of other developers, and that's what I was going to skill up, like around, the hyperbole around other developers saying not to expect this type of quality from a game. Well, I think that we should expect that type of quality from a game. And I don't like that whole narrative, that whole pushback that we shouldn't expect that. Now, I'm not saying every game needs to be a masterpiece, but at least come out with a finished product, Anyway, that's my point of view. I hope Xbox shows up. This is an Xbox-centric podcast. I hope Xbox shows up in a big way. We also talked about this risk. Should Xbox forfeit the Game Awards because none of their games have been really heavily promoted there? I don't think that's the case. Apart from FanFest, this is the second biggest show. You could argue the biggest show of the year. There's so many eyeballs on this show, and I don't think Xbox or anyone can really afford to not show up.
Yeah, and they already did it last year as well. I mean, I've been listening into the community. That's the sort of why I was talking about it. And I'm like, the same people that were telling me it was a massive deal that Xbox did not turn up last year are the same people saying that they should boycott the show. It's madness. You can't switch that quick. Come on.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I was actually one of the bigger people who, if you remember, I was featured in an article complaining about that because I was so bothered by them not showing anything but Game Pass trailers. It's like, why would you do that? And I know some people now like, well, what about the pony bots who complained about them not showing up? Sorry, y'all. They should have shown something. We can't go off hindsight and say, well, they gave us a show in February. Of course, now we can say that, but we didn't know that was coming. So kudos to Microsoft for stepping up.
I'm just going to say
having that.
I did call that to say, but go.
What's that?
In my defense of them not showing up at the game show, I was like, they're probably going to have a show. It's probably coming soon. You know, I did say that, but
I don't recall.
but
my thing is,
they use the Game Awards to actually announce the Series X, so they do realize how many eyeballs are on this show. That was a massive
it's a lot.
Nick Deal is.
Yeah.
It's a lot to ignore, I think, and that's my biggest point, is that this is one of the biggest shows of the year. I don't think they should not be there for that and just show Game Pass ads. And I get people's logic, like, well, they could save it for their show. That's sure, absolutely. Now that we have that blueprint, now that we see what they did with their own thing with Bethesda, and Bethesda likely running the show for that because it was so well done, I would agree. But I still think that, you know, Microsoft is everywhere throughout the year, and they've done a better job than any of the big three as far as having their own shows all over the place. So you have to give Microsoft their kudos. I just still, at that point in time, I don't think it was unfair for Xbox guys to have been upset that there was nothing there that at that time when it was such a dry year overall outside of As Dust Falls and Pentiment, which I love both.
Yeah, I mean, look, I never defended. So my position wasn't that they shouldn't, you know, they shouldn't have been there. I was always saying, look, yep, they didn't show up. It's a definite misstep, but the amount of like just, I mean, you can't call it any other way. The tears that were flowing through the Xbox community was like, everyone just calm down. It's going to be okay. I'm sure they'll come back next year. I mean, and we even saw Phil. He saw him mouth the words saying, we should have been here. Like he actually said that. You can see him mouth those words. So I think that going
back to what Stuart said, mate, I just want to say, if GTA 6 is announced, it will suck the oxygen out of everything else announced. And not much can suck the oxygen out of a Gears 6 announcement, but that would. So do you then not announce because they're gonna if GTA 6 is gonna be there?
No, definitely. I would definitely agree. But Blue, let's go to you. What do you think? Do you think that if everyone sees a GTA 6 on the horizon, they hold back their announcements? You think we're going to see Xbox show up in a big way? You think PlayStation's going to turn up this time? You know, Nintendo. I know you love Nintendo. What do you think? So you think it's going to be a big enough year to top 2023, match 2023, or not possible? Where are you at with it?
Yeah, so I think PlayStation will be there with the Last of Us 2 remake, right? They just announced it, you know, so honestly, and isn't it supposed to come out early next year? So
that's true.
It's probably a time for them to do something with that. And then
remaster. Did you say remake or remaster? We're not going to go
remaster.
Okay.
All right. If in case I said the wrong thing, I definitely meant remaster. I definitely don't need a remake. We don't need a remaster either, but that's a
hot button
story.
Hot button issue, that one.
So yeah, it is, and I don't mean anything by it. I just think it's something that they, you know, they've put some time and money into it, and they've added some new content, right, with this $10 drop that they're doing for people who already own it. So then the Xbox will be there most definitely. I don't think they'll put Hellblade there. I know that's what everybody was mad that they didn't see last year, but to be honest, the Hellblade trailer this summer really didn't hit the mark, right? So I think that will come in the beginning of next year or early next year. If there is a Gear 6 announcement, I honestly think that if this heavily rumored collection is supposed to be coming, I mean, I think that they would announce that before they announce Gear 6, but I don't know, maybe they would do it in conjunction.
Yeah.
And then Avowed, I don't know, that's supposedly coming next year as well, right? So maybe there'll be a little bit of that. But I don't think anybody would be doing themselves a service to skip it even if GTA 6 is there. That just doesn't it doesn't make sense because, I mean, while GTA 6 is kind of a universal, everybody huge hit, right? People still want to see like what is coming from all of the platforms. And honestly, if Nintendo officially dropped that Switch 2, during that would be huge too, but they don't
That would be
necessarily
massive.
tend to do, right? They don't tend to do those kinds of things during, non-first party shows, but who knows? Maybe Jeff has some great connections to get those things out there.
Yeah,
I
well,
wonder
I've
if
seen-
What about Death Stranding
Xbox
2?
could.
What did-
I was just going to say, Holly, what about Death Stranding 2? Kojima and Keighley have a great relationship together, so I
We've
think if we're
seen
going to
some
see
stuff
it, we'll
about
see it here.
lately, too.
Yeah.
Deadly, you would,
I think it's a
sorry,
big-
jump
Yeah, I was
Sorry,
just
Deadly.
going to say, I wonder if this could actually be a good opportunity for Xbox to sort of flex its Activision muscles a little bit, because I
No.
know.
Yeah, I'm gonna
Do you not think
jump.
so?
No, I'm going to jump in here because there's a very
Mhm.
good reason. There's a few reasons that I think that we may see a Gears announcement. And when I say Gears announcement, I'm not saying definite Gears 6, but I think we're going to have something from Gears. There's a few reasons why.
Mhm.
Be careful how I phrase it. So with the ABK thing, they've just acquired ABK. We've seen how long it's taken them to assimilate Bethesda. I'm sure they've gotten a lot better at assimilating companies and creating pipelines between the two. But I think it's very, very early on in the piece to expect anything to
So-
come from ABK.
By flex muscles, what I actually mean is we might actually start seeing some interesting Game Pass drops, because when Phil was being interviewed on, I think it was the official Xbox podcast, there was a very clear sort of, we know that our community is expecting Game Pass drops. Like we hear that, and believe me, like it would be really cool. But we can't deliver that yet, and I wonder if maybe, considering the amount of eyes that are going to be on the Game Awards, because obviously it is a platform agnostic show, and I mean, what was last year's views 30 million? Was that right? It was something crazy like that, right?
was
It was
nuts, yeah.
high. I wonder if this is maybe Xbox's way of going, here's the value that we can bring to Game Pass now that we have done this thing. I definitely don't think we're going to see anything new from Activision. It's way too early. Way too early.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. So
But yeah, sorry,
on
Gears
that,
6. Let's talk about that.
as well as that, I would say also drops into Game Pass. If you're bringing them to the Game Awards, they've got to be big. It's got to be it's got to be all the Call of Duties. And that can't be your whole, the way in which you turn up. That just needs to be a little bit of side excitement.
Yes, yeah,
So-
absolutely. It definitely shouldn't be a main dish.
So the reason that I think we'll see Gears, so I floated my ideas past someone who's in the media, and who does know some things. He wouldn't tell me anything, so I'm not saying that I got any information at all. And then I also do know someone from inside the studio, but haven't spoken to them in ages. But I was thinking back to when I did, and what I sort of heard, and then trying to personally myself work out a production timeline. Like, where would you be at if these things were true? So, and again, things change, and development cycles are sometimes backwards and forwards. Sometimes they go, 3 steps forwards and then 5 steps backwards. So it's hard to sort of work that out, especially with all the information. But based on that, based on the fact that Bethesda's already shown everything that they've got coming, or delivered everything that was to come, and then it's too early in their cycles to be announcing anything. Every Xbox first-party studio has either delivered or announced what they've got coming, except for 2 studios. There's literally 2 studios that have not delivered. The Initiative, that's Perfect Dark. I don't think Perfect Dark is anywhere near ready or to the point where they can show any sort of gameplay. And the next time that they show that game, it needs to be shown with confidence, just based on all the rumors that everyone's heard from behind the scenes. And the one studio that doesn't miss, and it doesn't need to be a gameplay trailer, which is something that a lot of people were saying on Twitter. I want to see gameplay. It's like, dude, you haven't even seen an announcement yet. If they are announcing a new game, I think the most likely game has to be Gears. I couldn't think of anything else. And I think Holly's 100, you're 110% right, Blue. It's it's probably for PlayStation. They're going to turn up with the remaster, possibly an announcement. And third parties, I think, is what I'm going to be most excited for when you look at the year that we've had, and then I guess it makes me more optimistic that we're back on sort of a cadence track for the entire games industry. However, there has been a lot of bad in the industry, and I definitely want to jump to that into our next topic. Unless anyone wants to add anything on top of the Game Awards, I didn't want to get into the too negative side of it.
Still wouldn't mind seeing Avowed gameplay, Clockwork Revolution gameplay, Perfect Dark gameplay. Machine Games could show maybe Wolfenstein 3 or maybe show something on the Indiana Jones. So I don't know if they're the only Xbox first-party studio that needs to show something. I get these games have been announced, most of them at FanFest, but I think gameplay is a big thing. I think when you show gameplay, it's very different to showing the trailer. But
that's exactly my point, though. So exactly what you're saying is like the TGAs are traditionally where you announce. That's where, if you're going to announce and you want the most eyes on it, that's sort of where you do it. I mean, sure, you could show it with gameplay and that would definitely be a thing. But traditionally, you want to like bringing people to the platform. People already know indie's coming. People already know these games are coming. You want to announce what's next. I feel like that's the place to do it. And yeah, definitely Xbox misstep last show not doing that.
So, one of the rumors is that Indiana Jones might be one of the ones, according to Jez and Rand when they discussed it on their show earlier. So it's possible. But I do get your point there. I just feel like anything where you can put the most eyes on something that you want to really hit makes the most sense.
Mhm.
But I mean, still, look, I expect Hellblade 2 to be there for the same reason why it was there before when it was announced. So maybe we'll finally get combat, gameplay or something like that. But listen, I have to get going now, guys. So I did want to chime in and say I think PlayStation, if they're going to show anything, it might not be first party, but maybe third party deals and such, because that's going to be what carries them for most of next year. I think mostly will be third party. Maybe a few second party. I know they got stellar yams, as we all know. But as far as Xbox, I just expect them to showcase something. I'm not quite sure, but Hellblade 2 would be at the top of my list if I had to pick anything.
Mhm.
So yeah. But listen, I unfortunately do have to get going. Much love to my cast mates here and showrunner. And Deadly Headley, nice meeting you, brother. We will talk to you about some Halo to, try to test your skills, test your might, as they would say.
Absolutely,
And
man.
yes,
For
I'll
sure.
hit you up and hook you up on the Xbox so we can add you as a friend. And Skill Up, nice meeting you, brother. I know Riskit gushes about you all the time. No pause, because he really does.
Whoa.
And very nice meeting you too. Hopefully you can get in on us on the Xbox and play some Halo or something like that with us.
Yeah.
I know it has been a while for you, but yeah.
Love that. Oh, hang on. Is my mic working? Yeah, it is. Perfect. Just kick back in. Yeah, that was really good meeting you too, man. And yeah, I love that. Thanks for having me today.
Absolutely. But listen,
Have a great show, Umbra.
guys. Thanks, brother. Much love to you guys. And again, if you guys, once you finish with the show here, if you all could swing by for the table read, if you have anything you can donate towards the cancer cure that they're going for with the charity, please come by and do so. And much love to you all. I will talk to you later.
Yeah, it's great having you on, man. If you want to find Umbra, you can head down in the description. You'll find his channel down there and all of his links. Thanks for coming through, man. Good luck with the read. And I'll pop over and say good day when I'm done here.
Much love. All right, Holly. See you too.
Look, we'll move on to the next topic. Before we do, we got a super chat in that I just want to read out. It's from Hargeet Chani with the $5 super chat. He said TGA's stuff is overblown. Xbox in 2020, 9 nominations, the second most. In 2021, they got 23 nominations. That's the most. In 2022, 2 nominations, recognized as a bad year for Xbox. In 2023, 10 nominations with the second most. So the nominations are there. So I mean, look, man, there's a lot of talk about this Xbox tax online, and I didn't want to get into that too much. But I mean, when we talk about bias, I think that you could talk about it in an unconscious bias sort of way, whereby most of the industry, just based on the gaming industry itself, most of the industry in the console market will be playing on PlayStation. which does create an unconscious bias. I know there's some weird stuff that goes on. We don't want to get into that too much. I wanted to talk about this with SkillUp because I know that SkillUp has strong feelings about this, as do I. I also have strong solutions that I don't think will ever get taken up. But hey, but before I do go and jump in the next topic, guys, please hit the like button. If you're new here, subscribe. We go live every Friday at 7 p.m. EST. If you're in the east of Australia, it is 11 a.m. And if you're in the West Coast, best coast, like I am, 8 a.m. So there's been a lot of talk, and this has been ongoing. It's sort of a news thing that's sort of been rearing its ugly head every single week. There has been layoffs. I think SkillUp, you've even got like a section that used to be about the weird crypto NFTs.
NFT bullshit, yeah.
Yeah, you've replaced that with layoffs, which is sort of a sad thing. And what sort of gave me a bit of pause this week when I was reading into some of these articles. What popped up is that Nintendo was actually given their workers a pay rise, as well as the guys over at Sega. The Persona developer at Atlas has raised their employee salaries by 15%. Nintendo has actually delayed them moving into their larger development studio because they're extending the build and making it larger. So it seems that the East is investing in their developers, whilst the West is trying to raise profits by, I don't know, like just cutting back and laying people off. It doesn't seem, and when you think about it, in a year where we've had one of the best years in gaming, probably some of the biggest sales we've ever seen, a lot of record profits, to have this amount of layoffs, I think we're up to the 6,000 to 8,000 mark of layoffs throughout this year. I think it's absolutely nuts. And I did do a video a couple of weeks ago just discussing about some of the things that they could do, which is, and I think you see this with Nintendo, I think you do see this with Sega as well, doing smaller games, taking parts of these teams that are working on massive AAAs, restructuring those teams and shifting them over to smaller experiences like, Prince of Persia or smaller games, and testing the water with new IPs. And I think there's been a lot of risk aversion that's sort of limiting that. And I think that just it's a flat out corporate response in a creative industry to just lay people off. But SkillUp, I know that you've got some strong feelings about this. I just, your take on why is it the East are investing in their developers and building bigger development studios, whilst the West just seems to wholesale lay people off.
Yeah, like it's that contrast. I think there is cultural differences with regards to Japanese developers versus Western developers, Japanese companies, I should say, because there is in Japan, usually when you get a job at a company, you're kind of planning on being there for life. It's a totally different approach to how you build a long-term career in the Japanese corporate world. And that exists on both sides of the fence, as in companies plan to keep their staff in perpetuity and have them forever. And staff also plan to be there forever. And it's just kind of like the tacit agreement that workers have with their places of employment. Obviously, it's not like that, and I'm sure it's changing in more modern times or whatever, but that is kind of how it goes in Japan. And that's definitely not the way it is in the Western corporate world. I mean, usually you're at a job for 3 to 5 years tops. You can always expect to be laid off a couple of times in your career. The only sure thing is that at some point that your company is going to lay you off. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's a cultural thing, and we're seeing that manifesting in the game dev side of the equation as well. But I think as well, holding on to staff long term really does produce some really great results. Just this week, actually, and I don't want to bring the conversation back to Baldur's Gate, but just briefly, there's a really great video from Danny O'Dwyer, the no clip guy, and he has got a new video series going where he talks about how games are made. This one focuses on Baldur's Gate, and he really drills down on the fact that the staff working on this game, many of them have been with Larian for 20 years, making this type of game for 20 years. And so you don't just get this sudden result where, oh my God, we've just produced a masterpiece. It takes a lot of time to do that. Same goes with something like Elden Ring, where the FromSoft staff have been there forever. Tears of the Kingdom, the people that are working on Zelda games have been working on Zelda games for 25 to 30 years. So there's a lot of compounding value that comes from keeping your staff long term, and that's doesn't seem to be highly valued by many Western studios. I mean, just recently we saw Bungie lay off Michael Salvatore from their ranks. He's their veteran composer who has just produced the most iconic Destiny music for the last decade, and they just sacked him. You know what I mean? And that was a real moment, like a real wake up moment for me, even as someone who's been watching all this shit unfold for, the last 18 months or whatever. That was a big thing where I'm like, wow, if even Michael Salvatore, someone that knowledgeable, that capable, is still getting laid off. If that is not enough output for you to secure a place at a company long term, then what the hell is, So yeah, it's very disappointing. It makes the year bittersweet as well, because obviously we have so many fantastic games to play, but we also know that many of the people that made those games ended up losing their jobs at the end of it, which really sucks. So yeah,
I guess
it's a real bummer.
I wanted to ask sort of you, what in way of solution, like because my personal feeling on this is that this is a sort of a symptom of the way that AAAs are built, and studios are run, and production houses are run, publishing houses are run. What's the solution here? There's got to be a sort of a restructuring of the industry as a whole. I think Phil Spencer said it himself that AAAs are still operating as if they are selling to brick and mortar stores, and that's very. I see that's very, very true. So, by way of solution, is there anything that you think that you could see the game developers doing? One of the things that I also added in that video was, and again, it sounds like a very Xbox centric solution, but subscription services and having those smaller budget games where you can sell them off to a subscription service where you've got that money coming in. You set your budget, you hit that budget, you've sold it off for this much, you've made X amount of profit, and then boom, you go again on the next game, building up experience, and trying out new IPs, and then not really taking that risk of big AAA. That was sort of one of the solutions that I sort of come up with. Is there anything that comes to mind for you that you think the industry could do to help retain staff?
Look, I mean, I definitely don't think there's any one solution, and if there was, I certainly I'm not smart enough to know what it is. I would just sort of take it at a higher level, which is, I mean, the reality is the companies that are laying off staff are making billions of dollars in profit, and that's it. Like, I just, I get it. I understand why executives think it's necessary to do that, to maintain top line growth, to attract more investment, stave off hostile takeovers, keep the share price high, et cetera, et cetera. But I just think that entire model really fucking sucks. And yeah, I mean, I just think it really blows. I mean, you look at Valve, for example. Like, Valve recently put out the Steam Deck OLED, and they did this massive product upgrade, and then they ended up making it cheaper because they're a privately owned company that is able to do what they want and focus on value for their consumers. And they don't do layoffs, at least not that I know of. They're a very small operation, mind you, so they don't need to. They have more money than God as well. But I guess my point is that, like, these publicly listed companies seeking endless perpetual growth, I think that is more the issue than any kind of, business model choice about subscriptions versus box sales versus whatever else. Like, Microsoft makes, billions and billions of trillions in dollars in revenue and billions of dollars in profit. And they still sacked workers this year. All big tech companies did, despite the fact they're achieving record profits. And I mean, that I think is the thing, right? It's just that desire for profit is the problem, and it's never going to change, and that's why I don't think there's any easy solutions to this.
Yeah, I completely agree. There's not really one solution, I guess, other than coming up with a solution that continually brings in profit, or.
But it's a choice. It's a cultural choice. Again, you look at many Japanese developers; they don't think the same way. Like, they're still trying to chase profit, but they have a different relationship with their staff. The talent market over there in Japan is different. Like, it's different, and it seems, and they've got their own problems in their work cultures. Don't get me wrong. Like, it's very patriarchal, and like, there's definitely a lot more crunch going on over there than there is in Western studios, et cetera, right? But at the end of the day, like, they focus more on staff retention in the long term than Western studios do. And so, yeah, I mean, I think it just, yeah, if there is some easy solution to stop this many people losing their jobs, I'd love to hear it. But unfortunately, I just don't think there is.
Yeah, and it is tough that you lose a lot of experience when you do lose those staff. Pete, I guess I'll jump to you because I know we have these political capitalist conversations, what else is there, all the time. And I guess this sort of does feed into it. Don't want to get too political about it. But I mean, Pete, what do you think the differences, obviously, that Skill Up's highlighted between the cultures? What is it that's causing this that you think that maybe could change within the industry and why we're seeing all these layoffs?
Look, I don't know the answer to that. I think everybody's searching for the answer for that. I don't understand how, in this economy, the Japanese companies can grow their studios. I mean, everyone's going through a downturn. I mean, COVID caused a hell of a lot of problems. You know, we shut down Western economies for basically 2 years, or all economies for 2 years, and I think we're suffering the negative effects of that still. And I think it's going to get worse. I mean, my heart goes out to the 900 employees that lost their job, um, and that will always be the case. The industry was growing for so long, and it was so, it was so good to see so many people being there. Even if you lost your job, you were able to find it elsewhere. I don't know if that's going to be the case anymore. Um, we do know that the Nintendo Switch 2 is going to launch pretty soon, and I think that a lot of companies in Japan are building towards that. The Switch was just incredibly successful. Whatever game you put out on that console, it generally sold quite well, and so I think a lot of the building is put towards that. I think we also talked about the fact that a lot of the Nintendo directors actually took pay cuts and didn't take bonuses when they were struggling, to make sure that they kept their employees, to make sure that they didn't have to do layoffs. And I think the West could learn from that a little bit, and, maybe not pay the big guys so much in order to keep the little guys there and the little guys happy, because you keep those small guys happy and better games, better results come out of it. You um the game will sell more because there's a better product there in the first place. But honestly, this is a very, very difficult subject to broach, because obviously it's people's livelihoods. um I would love it if every studio and every game made money. That's just not the industry we're in. It's a capitalistic society. You put out a good product, you're going to sell well. You're going to be able to retain the people you work for you. I think SkillUp made a very good point. How they could fire the guy that made the Halo score, that made the Destiny score. Iconic, iconic music that you only need to listen to a few bars to recognize it. That baffles me. Um,
For sure.
Yeah, and especially like when you talk about like that is one of the most iconic scores, Halo. And for that guy, I mean, especially at this late sort of stage in his career, or like where he's probably looking towards retirement, anyways,
Yeah.
it doesn't you don't seem to see any sort of feeling from the studio, for in a personal, and there should be for that kind of employee, someone who's
Totally.
been there from your beginning and driven, helped to drive your success. Yeah, it's just really shitty. There's no other way to put that.
Yeah.
It doesn't give you much faith, I guess, in some of the bigger studios. But I mean, Bungie's been pretty good at destroying faith over the years. Blue, I'll jump to you. Just I mean, I know it's a tough subject, and I know a lot of people are broaching this subject on other podcasts from the, hey, Embracer just dropped 900 employees. Hopefully Xbox can get in there and buy Tomb Raider on Crystal Dynamics. Well, I just sort of wanted to come at it from a very different perspective. Again, as Pete said, this is people's livelihood. And I feel like we're losing a lot of experience, because I would say, to put a number on it, say 5% of these people probably get out of the industry for good. And that's probably not just people new to the industry. I would say that's grizzled veterans that have just had enough of having to shift to a new company. And I can completely understand that. I think it's sad for the industry. But Blue, what are your sort of thoughts on maybe solutions? And I know we've gone back and forward about some of my solutions. You don't really agree with a couple of them because they rely on specific things. They rely on publishers being good, and we've seen in the past that they haven't been. So you're 110% right. So where do you sort of sit? Do you think there's any sort of one solution? Do you think there's a round of things that need to happen, or do you think we're just going to continue to see layoffs after layoff?
I mean, it's tough as the only American here. It's like, uh, it's probably look at economics slightly differently, I would think, than the UK and Australia. But certainly, what we do know, which is the fact that we just went through COVID, right? A lot of people lost their jobs, and there's a ridiculous amount of inflation costs in our daily lives, and even before COVID, the majority of people, frankly, live paycheck to paycheck, right? That is just the way a lot of the world works, good or bad, right? It's not how our grandparents lived, but also a different world, and we have different bills, we have different things that we need to do or want to do, right? A lot of us depend on credit and things like that. So living in a world where there's a lot of market fluctuation, right, in gaming because of projects coming in, going out, depends on what your skill set is. It's just really hard to know exactly for some of these, was it the natural progression, or was it, and obviously Embracer, all the Embracer stuff's a completely different story, right? But it really just shows, and it's not right, it's not fair, right, to a lot of people that, especially like Embracer, going out and going big, and then getting to this point where their debt overload is just, it's much, right? They That's why they're doing this fire sale with everything, and that's completely on them. But as anything in life, right, you have to sort of insulate yourself to as much as you can, right, for things like this. So if it's expanding skill sets, or if it's having a secondary plan, I feel like in gaming industry, you have to be even more resilient than maybe somebody like myself who works in infrastructure, right? It's like everybody needs roads and sewers and streets and things like that, right? But it's a very, my job thankfully is very stable, but I can't imagine, having this skill and it, being as good or bad as the wind that's blowing outside, or as much profit as deemed required that year.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I wouldn't want my livelihood and my bills dependent upon the profit margin of a company in any given year. But unfortunately, that's where they're at, right?
No, definitely not. And unfortunately, that's how most of us live. That's how I live. But Australia's a bit of a lucky country, still a lucky country. So, but Deadly, I want to jump to you, and then we'll get moving on. Where are you at with these layoffs? I do have I don't want to take up too much head time. I do have a lot of thoughts as to what AAAs could do to sort of mitigate this happening, retain staff, retain skill, and I think that as a business, a lot of large businesses, I'm lucky the one that I work for, is they really do actually value experience and upskilling their staff within. I think that's something that's important, and probably the game industry needs to sort of look towards, and just instead of just being a AAA publisher, expanding out and into other things. There's other medias that they could branch out into, using their studios for cinema, or making smaller games, or whatever it may be. I think that gaming companies probably need to diversify within themselves. But where are you at with it? Do you think that this is just a symptom of the industry, that it's really not going to change? There's nothing that we can do, and this is what it is? Or do you think that there's avenues?
It's an interesting point that you make, and I think diversifying is definitely sort of it's an interesting realm to approach, because I obviously I'm new to this space. I'm very, very new to content creation, and therefore very new to actually talking about the games industry. So I can't pretend that I know how it all works. But what I can sort of talk about is my experience working in a creative industry that has to be very dynamic and moves very quickly. We've seen economic shocks around the world in, COVID, war, etc. And it stretches everything. And like Blue has said, these people's lives unfortunately do depend on the profit margin of another company, which is a very challenging reality that we all face, right? It's really, I think that we will see a positive change, because I think we have to learn and adapt. I think that's something that's really, I think we've all learned, as a society post-COVID. We have had to learn and adapt and work in new ways in order to survive. But unfortunately, because the games industry is so big and actually quite old now, considering, it's going to take time. Reform does not happen overnight, and it sucks that there is casualty to it in the form of jobs and livelihoods. I think thankfully what is positive is the fact that there are so many new and exciting things happening in gaming that there is sort of opportunity and space to pivot. Again, like in the job that I do, I have had to learn new skills in order to survive. And actually, funnily enough, content creation is one of the new skills that I've learned, because I found a need to.
Absolutely. I think I've lost you, Deadly. I think you've dropped out.
Oh, yeah, I'm here. You got me. Sorry,
Okay.
I think my network dropped for a sec. But yeah, it's tough and it sucks, and I hope it gets better. I really do.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I did. I know it's a bit of a serious, not fun one to sort of attack in the way that I sort of have come at it. So I apologize to the viewers, but I just wanted to talk about it from that very serious point of view. I don't think it gets enough. I don't think enough people talk about it in the way that we have today. So I definitely want to do that. Skill up. We know you got to get out of here. I know we're cutting into your family day, and absolutely amazing that you've come along and spent a bit of time with us and hung out. Really appreciate it. Can't wait till next Fan Fest so I can give you another big bear hug and we'll get a photo of that.
Yes.
But yeah, just if for anyone who doesn't know what Skill Up does, which I'm pretty sure that everyone does by now, one of the biggest reviewers that are out there, just let people know what it is that you do, where they can find you, and we'll get you on out of here.
Yeah, I mean, Skill Up, you'll find me pretty easily on most of the places, YouTube and the like. I'm on Threads. I don't know if anyone else is on Threads, but I'm on Threads. And yeah, that's me. It's pretty easy to track me down these days.
Absolutely is. Thanks for coming through, man. Really appreciate it. If you do want to find Skill Up or any of his links, you can head down below, and all of his links are there, including a link to his Steam curator page, which is awesome. It has a segment, put this on your radar, that's really awesome. It lets you know what's coming up in the way of mostly indies that are looking good. So yeah, head down there, click those links, and thanks for coming through, Skill Up. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, I really appreciate being here, and thanks for the invite, and hopefully we can do it again in the future.
Absolutely.
Thank you, mate. It's awesome.
Cool. All right. All the best. See you guys later.
Catch you guys.
Thank you.
Catch you later, Skill Up.
Before we go on to the next topic, I just want to jump into the super chat. Shooter says, "Hey everyone, I'm back. So behave. That means you too, Pete." Welcome back, Shooter. It's good to see you back, man. And Alvin with the $5 super chat, he says two things. Skill Up is 100% right about the unique greatness of Baldur's Gate 3. Also, this is random, but his Borderlands 3 review is the finest in the industry. Yeah, apologies, Alvin. I did mean to read that out while he was still here, and I'll actually pass that on to him in a DM, man, so that he knows that you appreciate his work. I'm a big fan. Love everything the guy does. I've been following him for quite some time, so bit of a thrill to have him on for me personally. Move on to the next topic, which is Halo, Deadly. This is a big one, I think you are, and we were sort of talking about this.
My
There's lots
favorite.
of sort of come at with this one. One, it was snubbed at the Game Awards, which is 110% true. I completely agree with that. Like when it comes to ongoing games, Halo should have been in there. It's probably the best ongoing game especially coming from the position of that it came from, with, basically being content poor, and having just such a tumultuous, beginning, from a year delay when it was shown to, you follow up, you drop, everyone loves it. Hey, you've got no content, to Bonnie Ross leaving the company, someone who's been with the company over 20 years, to where we're at today with like just a ridiculous amount of maps, ridiculous amount of content. It's look, to me, probably one of the best Halos that's ever released. I've been on record many times being extremely passionate about the state of Halo and the state that it released in. So I won't carry on too much. But I guess what I'm sort of asking of you guys on the panel, the guests today, is, has the change of the guard made a difference? Because we were very critical. We weren't too sure about is it Pete, not Pete Hines or Heinz? I can't quite remember the name of the.
Yeah, Heinz.
Yeah, Pierre Hines. Yeah, well, that is Pete in France. I think I do that joke every time, but that Pierre Hines, he seems to have steered the ship right. Deadly, we'll jump to you. Where are you at with Halo? Do you think this change of the guard has worked? Do you think we've seen?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I've been really, really impressed with Halo, and yeah, you're right. I did put a video out. So I think for me the biggest change that Halo needed was to add more variety to the platform. That was obviously the big problem with when it launched. There was just not enough content there. There was not enough to keep players interested. Obviously these problems were sort of made very clear before the change of guard happened, but it seems as though since Bonnie Ross's departure, the difference has been night and day. We've had 2 seasons back to back where they have just delivered more and more content. And I am very, very impressed with the opportunities that Forge AI opens up for the game. I think that's a remarkable feat. And yeah, shout out to the team, man. I think 343 have really outdone themselves here, because they have had a challenging record. Even when we look back at like MCC, I think was definitely one of the most egregious ones for me, as well as Halo 5's story as well. There have been some very real questions about 343's capability in terms of looking after Halo, and I think that the community, rightfully so, has been vocal and has been critical. And I think 343 have definitely earned that criticism. I want to be really clear on that, but I also think that they have absolutely deserved the recognition that they should be getting, and I do think that they should have had a nomination at the Game Awards this year. It wasn't actually for the award that you said, though, Riskit, but I will let my video do the talking on that one.
Yeah, it's been amazing, I have to say. I think they released recently that they've had 30 million individual player count on Halo. I think Season 5 has done the impossible, in all honesty, and it's brought people back to Halo. Getting a game in Australia was incredibly difficult. You'd always have to go off to America, but there's actually been games on Australian servers, and it's been incredibly fun. I think the addition to the campaign AI in Forge has made a massive difference, and my goodness, the people that make these Forge maps are just amazing. Someone made the Silent Cartographer remake, and it's literally exactly the same as the original game. It's just so well done. And the Forging community, I think, hats off to them, because they've done an absolutely amazing job. The Halo 3 Refueled event, I think, has moved over.
My God.
Yeah, it's fantastic, isn't it? It's moved
What
over
a
player base
playlist.
was playing MCC and move them over to Infinite, and I think they needed to do that. Addition of being able to put any helmet on any armor suit, shoulder pads, the cross core, customization that's coming. You can make yourself look like whatever Spartan you want. I know there's still a little bit work to be done on that front, but they are getting there. They are working on it. There's still 2 main issues that I still see with Halo. in order for it to take the next step. They need to work on the networking issues because unfortunately they're still existing in games where you shoot people and it just doesn't register. They did mention it. They said that they were
Sounds
making
like
incremental changes.
Sounds a bit like a skill issue to me, but yep, keep going.
They were making incremental changes and they realized that wasn't having the effect that they wanted it to have. So they've gone back to the drawing board and they're going to pull it all back and start from fresh. So I'm really looking forward to them doing that. And it's just the skill-based matchmaking. Something needs to happen on that front because Halo is just too sweaty at the moment. Every game you have to be on your game at all times, so you're going to lose the match. And I mean, a lot of the time that's good, but a lot of the time it just gets a little bit frustrating. And I've seen Halo follower Mint Blitz all make videos on that account. But look, I don't want to take away from the positivity of what they've actually been able to accomplish. Kudos to Pierre Hines. I wasn't sold on him when they first introduced us to him because he was talking about Halo championships that, pro champ players this. And I'm like, I don't know if he's listening to the casuals. But obviously they have been. And yeah, look, I couldn't be happier for Halo because it was a good game when it first launched. I had a lot of fun with it. I've made that many Halo nights, and I always enjoy it when I do that. So the more people we can get into that, the better.
100%. If you're an OG player as well, if you've been playing Halo for a long time, the Halo 3 Refueled playlist, if you haven't jumped in yet, that feels legit. It feels so authentic, man. I can't stress it enough. It just feels so good. If you played Halo 3 back in the day, you will love this.
Yeah. I actually haven't had a chance to get it in, but I've seen what I haven't got a chance to get in for the 3, but season 5 was like an amazing update. Some of the maps are really, really good. I don't really have any complaints. There's not many duds like in there. The modes, everything is there now. This is what we should have got at launch, and we could bang on about what we should have got at launch, but I mean, it's here now. It's just unfortunate it's too late. So it's something that when it comes to management at Xbox that we've had an issue with over here on Xbox Infinite for quite some time, but it seems to be the ship is righting itself. Blue, look, I know that you are not a massive fan of Halo, but have you had a chance? Have you had a chance to jump in and check it out? Are you interested? Well, this is something that will bring you in, or how you feel? I know you're dead set on COD at the moment. It is one of the best CODs. So
That's
I guess
my opinion.
That's Blue's thoughts on Halo. Wow. I guess we'll move on to the next.
You don't want to hear my thoughts on
That's
my answer.
COD is great. There is no doubt about it, Holly, but you really got to try out Halo as well. It really is a lot of fun. Did you not have fun when we played Firefight with Colt and the rest of the guys?
It's not.
It's just not it. It's just not it. Look, someone brought something up in the chat, and I want to move to the next topic before I do. Guys, please hit the like button. If you're new here, hit the subscribe button. We go live 8 p.m. EST, 7 p.m. EST every Friday. And if you're in the east of Australia, it's 11 a.m. And the West Coast, Best Coast, it is 8 a.m. Look, if you're in the UK, it's super, super late, 12, I think.
It is 12. It is 20 to 2.
Yeah.
It is 20 to 2.
Keep you up too much longer, I swear to God. But I do want to get into something, and I don't know if you guys saw, Destin released a video just recently talking about the Xbox tax and how it's ridiculous and all that sort of stuff. And I don't want to get too much into the Xbox tax. We've talked about BIOS on this channel for and on this podcast for quite some time. I believe it's there. I believe it's unconscious. I don't think it's something that's purposely done. I don't think people are moving behind the scenes going, man, let's give Xbox a bad score because it's Xbox. I think it's just something that sort of happens. However, some of the things that make me believe that that's not true, and one of the things that he referenced, and I actually put out a tweet and tagged him in it, is he was talking about the COD scores and the scores for multiplayer, the scores for campaign, and he sort of referenced that, maybe that's just because, and I've seen this a lot on Twitter, that it's a bad game. It's unequivocally just not true. As a COD player who's got thousands of hours under my belt, I mean thousands of fucking hours. I've been playing COD since Call of Duty, the original Call of Duty. I've got a pretty good breadth. There's only 2 games that I've missed in the series, and they were conscious choices. One of them was the Black Ops. I played a trial, and I really did not like that game. And one of them was the space one, and I was like, that is not COD. Fuck that. I didn't play those 2. Now, comparing this multiplayer to every other COD that we've seen, this is probably one of the best for me. You know, there's obviously caveats. There's, you know, the menus are terrible, absolutely terrible. They're worse and worse. They need to cut that back and make it more simplified. But when it comes to the core game, the game itself, the maps themselves, the weapon balancing, the TTK, the movement speeds, the types of movements, you know, your slide canceling, dolphin diving, that stuff. I mean, I know a lot of people hate that, but that's just part of, you know, the skill of the game. This is probably one of the best CODs, I think, that we have seen when it comes to multiplayer. 100% agree. Campaign is not great. But no, let's be honest. Let's be honest here. No one buys COD for the campaign. And if they do, well, that's your own fault.
That's not true. That's not true. That's all I bought COD for years.
Yeah,
Sure.
I'm more bothered by the campaign than I am the multiplayer. 100%.
Well, let me just say this.
Now I do both. But when I started, you're not always right.
definitely always right.
It's time to kill, man. It's too stressful. Halo's time to kill is perfect.
It's a beautiful ballet
of death. Yeah, but I sort of bringing it back. One thing that he mentioned is he has not played COD. So what? So here's the thing on that. Like, why are you talking about? And from his perspective, there's plenty of perspectives he could have come at that Xbox tax from. But one of the perspectives I cannot appreciate or respect is when you come at it from a maybe the COD scores were right. They're definitely not. When you look at IGN's score, and that was Stella Chung, she gave it a 6, I believe, for the multiplayer. She referenced that it was in her review, and I read it 4 times. She referenced that it was exactly the same as Modern Warfare 2, and then in other parts of the review, she referenced that that the movement was completely different. You know, so you need to sort of pick a spot and stand on that spot and say this is what it is and this is what it isn't. You can't say both things in a review and use them both as negatives and then use them to give it a score. The other thing I'll say is when it comes to the Xbox tax, I don't want to believe it's a thing. It's really difficult to reconcile some of the articles that we see coming out, some of the things that we see coming out. Is it unconscious? Probably, but it's still there. There's still an issue there. There's a, you know, and I'll go to Deadly as well because I know that you are or have a journalistic background. There is a bit of a lack of integrity, I think, when it comes to the gaming media. And I think sometimes when you're writing articles, when you're putting out these things, instead of looking at what kind of clicks you're going to get, like chase the clicks, that's your job, but do it with integrity. And I think they need to look at you know, their articles before they release them and say, is this integrous and is this something that I truly believe in? And if it is, like, you know, I'm going to back my argument. And a lot of times I don't see these arguments backed. Where are you at? I guess we're going to talk about the Xbox tax. Here we are. Well,
so I think the media bias is a very difficult subject because we all have our own biases and preferences. I think it's really natural. Like everybody in here is primarily probably an Xbox preferer that we over PlayStation. That's why we're on an Xbox podcast right now. And yeah, I do have a journalistic background. I have a journalism degree, sort of stretching some muscles that I've not used in about a decade. So you know, don't put too much store on that. But I think it was BG put in a super chat into Go Live last week that sort of talked about how I think there is a form of Xbox tax or preference, but it's not as sort of Machiavellian or kind of sinister as the phrase Xbox tax might sort of paint it to be. But I think there is a preference certainly amongst journalists for a certain type of game, and I have a bit of an interesting perspective to sort of come out with this because I the first time I've had a PlayStation console in my life was last year. The time before that was the PlayStation 2. So one of the privileges that I had from buying a PS5 last year was that I got to dive into a bunch of titles that I hadn't played. And I no joke here, my personal favorite game from last year that came out was The Last of Us remake because I'd never played it, and I miraculously managed to get this far in life without having it spoiled. So for me, it was a truly incredible experience, and I got it. I can see why people love these games so much, but I also was able to sort of consume them in a fairly condensed dose and could pick common threads and faults with all of them that for me does question that 10 that's just sort of handed to a PlayStation title. And I do think that there is an element of that. Like, you look at the quality of or the state that Spider-Man 2 launched in, and for full disclosure, I haven't played Spider-Man 2 yet because I am waiting for I want to play it over Christmas. Spider-Man is like my comfort game, and I played Spider-Man Remastered on the PS5 for the first time. Blown away. I loved it so much. And yes, there were faults in it. The pigeon chasing stuff was really long. There was a lot of like inner monologue stuff that sort of felt a little bit repetitive, and I worry that there's some of that in Spider-Man 2. That for me takes it down from being a 10. And I struggle to believe a 10 when I see it in a review because it just doesn't seem believable. And I do see them get handed out very easily to PlayStation titles. That for a moment doesn't make me think that there is actually such a thing as as an Xbox tax. But preference happens, and it's
I mean, it's an
preference
unconscious.
happens.
Yeah, it's
For sure. For sure. I don't think it's conscious. I don't think it's vindictive. I do think it's unconscious.
But it's there.
When you look at Starfield, for example, like I was quite critical of Starfield. I gave it a good score, but I didn't give it a perfect score. Again, if you want to go and find out why I scored it, you can go and check that out. But it was. I can understand and respect why it wasn't on the Game of the Year nominee list completely, but I stand by it being my personal Game of the Year because I thought it was spectacular.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it did something a little bit different, whereas Spider-Man doesn't. It's funny what the media rewards and what it I guess taxes in way of games. It does seem to reward that specific type of game. I think that and as well, again, when I say unconscious bias, you have to understand like the skew. I think it's 7-1 now. Apparently we're including the PlayStation Portal as a as a console now, but apparently
That
it's
shouldn't be
7-1.
included in anything. Is a ridiculous piece of hardware, man.
It is. Yeah, it is ridiculous. Yeah, it shouldn't even be included in anyone's collection, in my view. But look, it's that's obviously going to create a bias within the media. The media are part of that 7-1. So and when you can see it when third-party games release, and the amount of games that are reviewed, the amount of the third parties that are actually reviewed on Xbox as opposed to the review being on PlayStation 5 is usually ridiculously stark. It'll be around about that 7-1. If there's 100 reviews on the PlayStation, it'll be 30 on the Xbox. So I mean, that's just something that's going to exist, and at the end of the day, you can't really put that. There's no solution. There's no fix for that, and the only fix that comes from Xbox themselves, in convincing the consumer base to come over to Xbox, and that's they're doing a good job of that this generation, most definitely. Blue, I definitely wanted to go to you because you love your COD. Where are you at with this COD? Do you think it's been unfairly scored? Do you think that's due to the bias? I mean, strange that this, Modern Warfare 2 got what it got and this got what it got,
Yeah, I I think the campaign getting a 4. I personally did not enjoy the campaign that much, and honestly, it was just that there is a part of the campaign that really sullied every other part of the campaign for me personally. But a 4 is ridiculous because I had 0 bugs. It all worked perfectly. The shooting in COD alone is just so good that it just doesn't warrant anything that low. The multiplayer being a 6 is also strange to me because most of the I don't want to call them true, quote unquote true, but like the people who play COD all year round, right? They're loving this one. And if you're not a person who's appreciative of COD and how it plays, then you've got you probably you might not be the right person to to review the thing. I don't know that this has an Xbox tax if we're thinking that is even a thing, just because there's absolutely no way that anybody in their right mind could possibly think that Xbox had any influence over this COD, because it was ready to ship and ready to go before the acquisition was done, and you cannot have any crosstalk. There's no influence, anything between two companies when they're going through a regulatory process to be acquired. So it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Having said that, now that Activision is under the Xbox umbrella, we'll see what happens. I think that Xbox underperformed for a very long time, and they are still paying for that, even though I feel like most people can see that it is definitely changing. And this 1 a quarter or 1 every 3 months that they are talking about and they are trying to promise to Xbox consumers, I think we saw that with Starfield and Forza as the first. I really truly believe that is the first games of this new cycle that they are trying to implement. But of course, proof is in the pudding, and Xbox has a lot of goodwill to get back, but it's just difficult to believe that there isn't a bias. Everybody has bias about something, right? Whether it's on purpose or unintentional. I think a lot of the media does have fatigue from Xbox for years now, so anything that doesn't come in to blow their mind has that fatigue underlying stamp on it. And I saw Destin's video. I watched it. I don't know that I really agree with him. I do understand like him saying, it's absolutely ridiculous that media, on the whole is being, labeled as all having this Xbox bias. And I think there are some that are very obvious, like PC Gamer. They constantly just open the mouth and take a
Metro.
big old dump on Xbox. And Metro, yes. It's just like, why even, like I don't blame Bethesda for not giving them codes, because really, you know what I mean? Like, it's just ridiculous.
It really was.
But like, places like IGN and GameSpot, it's like, I don't know that any one particular person there is actively in their mind saying, oh good, I got the Xbox game and I'm gonna tank it, even before they play it. I don't think in general that people do that, but I do think that Xbox is held to a much higher standard on the whole than PlayStation is, or even Nintendo, because we do see, like, anytime a game comes in the 70s or 80s, if it's a Nintendo game, it's a solid game. It's a good game, right? But anytime an Xbox game comes in the 70s or 80s, I feel like it's kind of like, well, there's another one that did okay. It was okay, right? Or I don't know. They really, honestly, they need one or two, like Cog says, just one, right? But he's not wrong. Like they need one big hit that just can't be argued with,
denied.
right? That you
Yeah.
cannot say like that was trash, right? They really do need that. They need it. And it's just unfortunate because the narrative for Xbox is changing and the narrative for PlayStation is changing as well. We know it is, we can see it, but we're nerds who like do this, right? And talk about this all the time. This is what we enjoy, this is what we love. We're in the weeds in this. But like just to give you an example, this guy that works for me came in the other day and he knows I'm a gamer and he came in and he said, I just bought my first PlayStation. I bought a PS5 this weekend. He said, I've had Xbox forever and I was going to go and buy another Xbox, but my friends talked me into getting a PlayStation because the exclusives are better. And I went, I gave him a face and I was like, if only I had talked to you before. And it's not, I said, it's fine. You're going to love your console. Most of what anybody plays are third party for the most time of the year. But I said, honestly, the narrative that PlayStation is the place with all of the good exclusives, I said, it's going to change. But the problem is that when the media is constantly calling the Xbox first party exclusives mid, which some of them are bad, some of them are good, but most of them are being called mid. And then, PlayStation comes out with one banger a year or whatever it is. And then it's always like, oh my God, they're so good. It's just the best ever. And so what it's actually doing, and I frankly don't care what a reviewer scores it because I want to play it for myself and see. And that's what everybody should do. Like, I don't care what a person at IGN calls the game. What do I think of it? And that's what everybody should do. But what it does is it perpetuates this current of, for the casuals or for the moms or for the kid who's going to go buy a PlayStation or a game console for the first time, they look up stuff or they talk to their friends, right, who do have consoles. And this narrative of PlayStation being the far superior console is being perpetuated by the fact that, they do get better nods at gaming awards, or they do get better scores on the whole, or you know what I mean? And it's not that they're not deserved, but the fact that Xbox a lot through their own previous failures, but in some small part to media perpetuating that problem, it's just makes it really hard for them to compete fairly.
It does.
Right?
We
That's all we're
live in a
asking
world
for. Just
where
be fair.
we live in a world where that narrative seems to get traffic as well. That's the weirdest thing about it for me. It seems to generate so much traffic, and it just perpetuates this sort of one's better than the other because again, our algorithms feed off division and negativity. It's quite horrible.
And that's the other
it's the
problem
world
too,
that we
right?
live in.
100%, and it's always clickbait, right? Because PlayStation guys are like, yeah, look at this, screw Xbox, and then Xbox people are like, what, right? And they open it and they get mad, and it doesn't work that way the other way, right? I mean, I just don't see it working.
It doesn't.
That way the
I mean,
other way.
you know what? So this was something that I thought about before the show, because obviously, like this is again to reiterate my first show, so I'm obviously thinking about the stuff that I'm going to say because no one wants to sound like an idiot on the internet. Hopefully, I haven't done that today. You have like. Fuck, now I've forgotten what I was going to say. That's brilliant. What are we talking about? That's so good.
Sorry,
That's so good. You can't make that up. You can't make that up.
That
No,
happens to me
seriously,
all
it's
the
gone.
time.
Blue, help me. That's fantastic.
That happens to me all the time, dude.
We're
I
just
do
saying.
that. Then I just ramble on about something else. But
So
what
good.
you were saying, look, it's an unconscious bias. But it's obviously a completely unfair bias. But it's not a bias that Xbox hasn't created themselves.
Yes.
I'm gonna.
That was what I was going to say.
Yeah.
I sorry, just to jump back in. There's a narrative I've noticed about, especially from like, you know, those really hardcore PlayStation fans, hell bent on convincing everybody that Game Pass is bad for gaming and bad for industry and stuff like that. And I quite often think if the shoe was on the other foot and PlayStation had its first party titles dropping in day and date, those big PlayStation accounts would be, and please never do this because you should never treat your dog that way, but it would be the equivalent of them rubbing like our faces in our own feces to try and tell us some sort of lesson about how like PlayStation can do this and Xbox can't. And you don't see that from the other side of the camp, and you don't see media questioning whether or not PlayStation Plus's approach to a service model that emanates what Xbox is doing. You don't see it the other way around. You don't see it questioned nearly as much. I got surveyed about my satisfaction for PS Plus, and it sort of asked me why I left, because I did leave. I bounced onto the service, I played the games that I wanted, and I left because it wasn't offering me the value that it had. And it's strange that we live in economically challenging times. You'd expect something like Game Pass to be the savior for entertainment and enjoyment, but it's not always painted that way.
No, and it's not painted that way because of the bias that they have towards, if it was on their console, it would be, they would love it. Let's be honest. I reference a dude called Taryn who's quite often on Twitter Spaces, and back in the days we all used to join together and do Spaces, and he said many times, I would never sign up to a subscription service. I would never do that. No, I think it's ruining the industry, blah, 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 blah. As soon as PS Plus was restructured, guess what he did? Signed straight up to PS Plus. Boom. Like, it was on his service. So he was like, yeah, this is fantastic. So, I mean, that's just something that I guess personal preference. At least be
I think Microsoft did a really good. Yeah, Microsoft did a really good job of recognizing that the entertainment industry as a whole has moved in a different direction.
And what can they do to capitalize? And I think it's something that AAA, this is the thing, I think AAA development, its days are numbered the way in the model that it is in, unless there is something to supplement it. I'm not saying that model is ever going away just yet or in the near future, but it's not something that's sustaining them at the moment. Look at the mass layoffs that we've been having. Pete, I'm going to jump to you quickly and see what do you you think this tax exists, Pete? Is it real?
100% the tax exists. And I think the reason for it is because of people like us and Colt and Dealer and Jez. People go to them for their information anymore. And the only way people like IGN can survive is by having absolute nonsense negative Xbox articles that come out, and then the PlayStation fans go there and they say, yeah, look, they're saying what I think all the time, and I think that permeates the whole industry. And after a while, people start to believe the nonsense because it's written so often to get those clicks, which is unfortunate because I think Xbox has done a great. I don't think PlayStation would be as good without Xbox. I mean, look what they've gotten away with: $70 games, and just all the nonsense that they've been doing. And so I don't think PlayStation live without Xbox, and I don't think Xbox would be as good without PlayStation as well. And so I think they need each other. In terms of Call of Duty, I think this Call of Duty has been absolutely amazing. How it got a 6 for the multiplayer, and I won't speak to the campaign because I haven't played it yet, but I don't think the campaign's a 4, regardless. I mean, it can't be. Just the sound design, the look of the game, the feel of the game, push it well above a 4. But the increased TTK, how fluid it is. All the guns feel amazing. They sound amazing. It's just a hell of a lot of fun. The amount of content that's there, from the new maps to the new guns to the new skins to the zombie mode, it's just amazing. So it's definitely not a 6. But yeah, look, this whole Xbox tax thing, I do think it's existent. I think a lot of the time it isn't unconscious. I think a lot of the time they do it consciously to push people to their platforms, which are dying.
What you think? Which platform do you think is dying? Sorry, I was distracted by the phone for a second there.
Well, IGN, games,
Oh,
like,
it's
the
yes, yeah.
yeah, this old way
Yeah.
that we used to get gaming information. Now I
Mhm.
go to SkillUp's channel if I want to go watch
Mhm.
a review because I trust his reviews. I go to ACG if there's an Elden Ring game or a Dragon's Dogma coming up, I go to Fextra Life. If I want to
100%.
watch a Halo video, I'll go to, Halo Follower, or I'll go to Fleet
Mm.
Ghost because I trust these
Yep.
people. And a lot of these cases, I've
Because they're
actually
tapped
spoken
into the
to these people.
community. They're on the
Yeah,
ground. They understand what's happening. It's just, they're
yeah,
living the same experience that you are. They just have a platform so that they can talk about it.
yeah. Well, and, speaking of
We
devil,
have a lot of
swap
content
the
creators that
channel.
we can trust.
You know,
We have
Skill
a
Up
lot of
was on the
content
show
creators that we
today.
can't trust. But yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. And I
Shout
mean, you
out to
can
Colt
count on
Eastwood as well, man.
IGN
He's
to
one of the content
IGN.
creators who's kind of made me go, yeah, you know what, I want to do that. So shout out to him.
Yeah, I mean, IGN is where I used to go all the time to get my gaming news. Before I met Dealer, I met Colt, I understood, that, and when you speak to people, you get a relationship with them, and then you want to support them, and then, you realize that they're actual gamers. I'm sure the
Mm.
people that worked at IGN are somewhat gamers, but I spoke to Riskit, I think, a few podcasts ago about this subject. When people at IGN and these places hire people, they don't hire gamers, they hire journalists. And then they dip their toe into gaming. They see it, a lot of it, as a stepping stone to get to where they want to be. And when they post gameplay, it really does show that they're not gamers. So why would I take their advice instead of getting it from the people that I love, to
Mm.
go to in this industry, like,
Yeah.
Skill Up, ACG, Colt, Dealer, these type of guys.
Yeah.
Look, that's just the way I feel, and I think that the whole other thing is just clickbait nonsense.
Yeah. Look, absolutely. I as well. And on the content creation thing, I mean, that's, where I was getting most of my sort of news was from content creators like Cult Dealer, especially with the release of the Series X coming and all that, getting all the information that I could trust. Instead of looking towards companies like IGN. There is media out there that you can trust. I would say Season Gaming is a great one. They don't take any advertisements. They're not chasing clicks. They just do it. They are literally doing it for the love. I highly recommend them. Ains is a fantastic guy. 110% on the up and up. He's highly integrous. I guess you're going to get that with massive companies like IGN, where you'll get guys that aren't gamers that are doing reviews. They do have a guy that does reviews, Luke, who does the racing reviews, and he is 110% usually on point with his racing reviews. So it also comes down to who's the actual author as well. I do take a bit of issue with Destin saying, if you don't like that particular author, like move on to another author. But when it's a big aggregate like IGN, I sort of feel like you're representing that as an entirety, not just a single human. And it's a lot harder to weed your way through an aggregate site, what's good and what's bad. You shouldn't have to do that. I think your aggregate site should be at a standard, and that standard should be held. And I don't think we see that with the media at the moment, and I do hope that changes. And I don't want to rattle on about this for too long, and we've had a bit of a long show, and you might have heard in the background I'm getting 100 calls from work. So I do have to wrap it up. But Deadly, been an absolutely fantastic show, man. First podcast, you wouldn't have even known that was the first one that you'd done. So it was great to have you on, man.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that.
Absolutely, let people know where they can find you. But before you do, if you do want to find him in any of his links, just head down below, click the links, it'll take you straight to his channel, straight to his Twitter. He's got a really high production value, especially for someone who's just starting out. So I only see that getting better. And look, absolutely amazing job, man. You do amazing videos. I really enjoy them personally, and I hope everyone else heads down there and clicks that link and subscribes so that they can also enjoy them. Let people know where they can find you and what you got planned coming up.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. So yeah, you can find me as Deadly Headley on YouTube or at Deadly Headley _ on Twitter. Like Riskit said, I'm a brand new content creator. I started if you go and check my first video out, actually, which I know Riskit and Colt very kindly both gave some big love on. Okay, so I'm a creative professional in real life. I'm a graphic designer. I have a journalism degree, and I love talking about video games. That seems to be how I open my videos because they're all just true. So yeah, go and check the channel out. Let me know what you think. Share it out if you can as well. I'd really appreciate that. Like I said, I'm brand new. I'm tiny. I'm growing, but I'm hyped to be here, man. I really enjoy making content. I really enjoy talking about games. I'm personally very, very proud of my production value. It does mean a lot to me. I'm learning something new every video. The thing that I want to do is try and increase the cadence, but I'm finding my feet. I'm gonna end up chewing some of the other content creators that have shown up today, like chewing their ear off and just working out how they manage like a wife and a dog and a house and all the other stuff that comes with life. But yeah, that's me. Go and check my stuff out.
Trying to fit videos in between is
Deadly's
tough.
link is in the chat just above, guys. I'll link it in there, so go check it out.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely do that. Yeah, and it is tough trying to make videos around, having a life and other stuff going on, especially I'm at work right now. So I try to fit stuff in wherever I can. Pete, another fantastic show. Let people know where they can find you, what you'd be up to. And Pete's links down in the description if you want to go and click those and find him and you can find him every day.
Most likely be playing COD again, I suppose. Amazing to have Skill Up and Deadly on the show today. Had a lot of fun. Yeah, I'll be playing Xbox this week. You can find me there.
Absolutely. You can always find Pete on Xbox. It was amazing to have both of these guests this week on the show. It really was. Yeah. Blue, another fantastic week. Please let people know where they can find you, what you'd be up to, what you're looking forward to, how's your life looking, and all that stuff.
Thanks, chat. Thanks everyone for being here, and thank you, Deadly. It was really great talking to you. You were like a pro at this for the first time, and especially since you're like 3/4 of the way asleep, but you're good. And also huge thanks to SkillUp in case he does hear this. And it's funny because Riskit, I forgot to tell you that your moment meeting SkillUp in 2023 was my moment meeting Colt and Jake Baldino, who's on SkillUp's podcast in 2022. Because I met Colt and I was like, oh my gosh, it's Colt. And then I was like, oh my gosh, it's Jake Baldino. And Colt was like, go meet him. And we forced me to go and meet him, and he met him, and it was great. It was a very cool moment, although I did not bear hug him and pick him up off the floor. But anyway, I am that blue number here and Twitter and every gaming platform. And also this week I started on the Renegade Realm podcast, which is on Tuesdays at 5 Central. So go check us out over there. It's a good time, and Wolf and DeMarco and Assassin, and it's just fun and goofy talking about games and random facts about West Virginia and other places. So
fantastic. Awesome. Yeah, absolutely. Bobby in the chat there. Yeah, I did see you talking. It's hard because I've got a bit of a weird setup when I'm at work, but yeah, my little one's doing fantastic, and I can't wait to get back to her at the end of this week. If you want to find me, you'll be finding me floating around probably on COD, maybe a little bit on RoboQuest with Pete later on the week. You'll find me on Twitter as always, like stirring up trouble. Deadly, fantastic. Thank you for coming on. Skill Up as well. It was great to finally do a podcast with him and talk to him. Also, Jake Baldino, Blue. Love Jake Baldino. I think I walked past him at it wasn't Games Fest. It was the show we're at before that, with the Keeley one. And I was like, holy shit, Jake Baldino. And he was like, hey man. And we we had a bit of a chat.
He was really nice. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a good dude. He's a really, really nice dude. That's the thing with Skill Up and Jake, and not all content creators, I would say, with Skill Up, Jake, Colt, Dealer. These guys, what you see on live is what you get. Like these guys this is what they're like. They're good people, so really trustworthy and places to go for sources of news. We got to get out of here, but guys, check us out next week. We'll be back up and running. I'll be home, so I'll be a bit more comfortable, and hopefully I'll have OBS sorted out. I know what the hell's going on with it. And we'll see you all next week.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.